Episode 552. Returning to the main city, Yi Shu began browsing the market. The 10th server had been live for 2 months now, and its economy had largely stabilized. After 2 months in the game, most of the newbies who flooded in at launch weren't nearly as green as they used to be. They'd learned to tell the difference between valuable gear and equipment with special uses, at least for the simple stuff. And rare materials? With people constantly begging and buying them all over the place, even a fool knows they're not worthless junk. By the time Ye Shu had leveled Lord Grimm to 50, it was well into the wee hours of the morning. The trading street was still bustling, but most of the stalls were no longer manned by living players. They'd gone to sleep, leaving their characters behind to idle and run the shops on autopilot. Ye Shu was well aware of this, so as he walked along, he didn't bother haggling over any prices that seemed less than ideal. He simply kept moving, browsing, and clicking as he went. With tens of millions of players as its production force, the only things that could ever be in short supply are items dropped by map bosses, the kind that spawn on a fixed timer and point system. With enough patience, you could find anything you needed on the market. Yi Shu's requirements weren't high, and he understood the principle well. He patiently walked the entire length, opening his wallet again and again, tossing one piece of equipment after another into his pack. By the time he'd walked the length of the trading street, Lord Grimm's gear was completely new. Yi Shu pulled up his stats panel and gave a satisfied nod.
What's the logic behind this whole setup?
Chen Guo finally came over to ask. She'd been quietly watching Ye Shu pick out his gear, wanting to speak up several times, but had held her tongue, hoping to figure it out on her own. But after watching all the way to the end, she still couldn't figure it out, and had no choice but to humbly ask for guidance. Ye Shu glanced back at Chen Guo and said,
"Oh, cost-effectiveness."
Cost-effectiveness?
Chen Guo had lost again, and for such a practical reason. But Chen Guo figured that a top-tier expert like him would only go for the absolute best gear, and high-value-for-money items by definition couldn't be the best. So Chen Guo never once considered that Ye Shu's equipment choices might be driven by cost-effectiveness. Even when she saw some of the specific gear he'd bought and the thought did cross her mind, she forcefully dismissed it herself. Who would have thought it was actually true? A top-tier god of glory, shopping for gear on the street, and his main concern was cost-effectiveness. Chen Guo felt that Ye Shu was doing a great disservice to his entire warehouse of rare materials.
This gear is more than enough to complete the Heavenly Domain's challenge quest.
Chen Guo paused for a moment, then caught on.
You mean cost-effectiveness relative to the mission's difficulty?
Yi Shu gave a nod. After his character made a full circuit of the main city and got his gear sorted, he had already received all the challenge quests for the Heavenly Domain, the arena and the main quest line. So, as Ye Shu passed the arena entrance, even though he knew he was the only level 50 character in the 10th server, he still had Lord Grimm wander in for a quick look. This just goes to show that even a god-tier player is human, and sometimes can't help hoping for a pie to fall from the sky. The arena was a lost cause, so the only thing to do was start the main quest line. The tutorial quests are numerous. The first step is to head back to the starter village, find the quest giver, and accept the task, helping him retrieve his wallet, which he lost by the stream. What a classic, charming little quest. After accepting it, you just head to the coordinates the quest giver points out, and you'll arrive at the instance. The mission scenes in the Heavenly Domain are essentially dungeons. However, they're single-player only, so you don't have to worry about anyone causing trouble and affecting your challenge mission, nor can you expect to get help from others. The Find the Wallet quest was only cute in name. In reality, this stage was a test of the player's jumping skills. The scene is set on a rushing river. The player can only traverse it by leaping from stone to stone. If they slip and fall into the water, they're immediately swept downstream, forced to start over from the bank. And that wallet was undoubtedly lost on one of the river stones. The arrangement of the stones and the wallet's location were both randomly generated, with enough permutations to drive anyone trying to devise a strategy to utter frustration. It all came down to pure skill, leaping from stone to stone, searching step by step. That quest gave Chen Guo a real runaround back in the day. She fell in the water more times than she could count, but she finally managed to fish out that wallet. Now that the great god was taking the stage, of course Chen Guo had to watch. The result was that Yi Shu ran to the scene, charged to the riverbank, and without even seeming to look, he just jumped. There was no pause. There was never any pause. Since she could only watch through Yi Shu's main screen, Chen Guo got a much more direct sense of just how practiced and fast his movements were. The screen never settled for a second, the view constantly spinning. Chen Guo couldn't tell if Ye Shu was looking for his wallet or a place to land. The character kept jumping, and she had completely lost track of which direction they were headed. 3 minutes later, Lord Grimm leaped onto the shore and strode away without a backward glance. Chen Guo just stared at the screen, completely stunned. A minute later, she was certain they were heading back toward the starter village.
We're done for?
That's it then.
Where's the wallet?
Yi Shu opened his inventory. The wallet, as a quest item, was highlighted in a different color. A simple mouse hover revealed all the details.
When did you pick that up?
Chen Guo genuinely hadn't seen it. Yi Shu also felt he didn't know how to describe it.
I didn't see it at all.
If you'd said so earlier, I could have taken my time.
Chen Guo was left speechless, and remained so until Ye Shu swapped the wallets and began the second task. The second task was combat, but with a strict limitation. Only basic attacks were allowed, no skills whatsoever. This one had Chen Guo ready to tear her hair out. For a gunner, the basic attack is just one thing: shooting. You can fire from any stance, under any movement condition, but landing a hit is the only way to deal damage. A gunner without skills is basically playing a game of Counter-Strike, a 1 versus 100 game, with a single life. If you die in combat, you start over. The only perk is that death carries no penalty. If the Heavenly Domain Challenge quest had a death penalty, the Glory Company would be a prime target for terrorism. Of course, this 1 versus 100 quest had its own storyline, but would Yi Shu even bother to look at it? He accepted the mission with brisk efficiency, skipping past all the story dialogue and cutscenes. Chen Guo shifted her position, ready to enjoy the show from the expert. In no time at all, Chen Guo was in tears. She'd been using Lord Grimm so much lately, how could she have forgotten about the Myriad Manifestations umbrella, that monstrous thing? A single class only has one set of basic attack patterns, but for Lord Grimm, there were a full 6. With a single shift of its form, the Myriad Manifestations umbrella became a whole new set of attacks: ranged, melee, full spectrum coverage, even a shield. Of course, the target of this 1 versus 100 wasn't a boss. In fact, they didn't even have the strength of a level 70 mob. However, Lord Grimm was only level 50 at this point. Against 100 opponents, he was still at a disadvantage in terms of pure level. But with the Myriad Manifestations umbrella, Yi Shu was even more of a monster. What was a measly level gap to him? For a top-tier pro, these were just a bunch of small fry.